Picture this. You wake up and it is pitch black. Not because it is the middle of the night, but because it is 2 in the afternoon and you haven't seen a window in 3 weeks. You roll out of a bunk barely wider than your shoulders, squeeze past 60 sleeping shipmates, and head to your 12-hour shift. Somewhere above you, fighter jets are being launched off a steel deck at 170 miles per hour. Down here, you wouldn't know it. This is daily life for thousands of American sailors aboard a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, and almost nothing about it resembles anything you've experienced on land. Ask most people what they know about aircraft carriers and they'll talk about the jets. The F/A 18 Super Hornets screaming off the catapult, the arresting wire catches, the choreography of the flight deck. That's the story that gets told. But there's a completely different story happening below that deck, in the corridors, galleys, berthing compartments, and engine rooms where the vast majority of those 6,000 sailors actually spend their time. These men and women aren't flying jets, they're maintaining them, fueling them, arming them. They're cooking 17,000 meals a day, they're running nuclear reactors, they're managing an economy, a hospital, a postal service, and a waste management system, all from inside a steel hull moving through international waters. Understanding how they actually live, not just how they fight, is the story that deserves to be told. Let's start with sleep, because nothing else illustrates the reality of carrier life quite like where and how these sailors rest. When you board an aircraft carrier as an enlisted sailor, you are assigned to a berthing compartment. Picture a room roughly the size of a school classroom. Now fill it with 60 people and 60 bunks stacked 3 high. Your bunk, called a rack in Navy terminology, measures 72 inches long and 26 inches wide, 6 feet by just over 2 feet. Your mattress is 3 inches thick. If you're in the middle or bottom rack, there are exactly 20 inches of space between your face and the rack above you. 20 inches. You cannot sit up, you can barely turn over without strategy. Sailors call these coffin racks. It is not an exaggeration. The entire storage space allotted to you for a 9-month deployment is a single locker that is 10 inches wide, 22 inches deep, and 41 inches tall. That locker holds everything you own for the duration. Uniforms, personal items, whatever small comforts you manage to pack. Everything. Now here is the part that makes sleep genuinely difficult beyond just the physical constraints. The ship never stops operating, ever. There are 3 rotating shifts running around the clock, which means that at any given moment, about a third of your berthing compartment is trying to sleep while the other sailors are coming in, getting dressed, having conversations, living their lives. The ship itself never goes quiet. Nuclear reactors hum. Aircraft engines roar overhead. The ocean pushes against the hull. Alarms go off. Drills are called. A sailor on the night shift trying to sleep at noon is doing so in a room where day shift sailors are entirely awake and active around them. The Navy has recognized how brutal these conditions are, particularly on mental performance. On the newest Gerald R. Ford class carriers, berthing compartments have been redesigned. No more than 86 sailors share a berthing space, down from the much larger groupings of older ships. Each berthing now has its own attached washroom. Noise insulation has been improved. These aren't luxuries. Sleep deprivation degrades decision-making, reaction time, and emotional regulation. On a ship where one wrong decision can kill people, the quality of sleep matters operationally, not just personally. Even so, getting adequate rest on a carrier remains one of the hardest physical challenges the sailors face, and most of them adapt in ways that would leave a civilian completely baffled. Here is something that rarely makes it into the recruitment brochures. The majority of sailors aboard an aircraft carrier will go weeks, sometimes months, without seeing natural sunlight. Not because the ship lacks windows, but because of where they work. The flight deck is extraordinarily dangerous during operations. Jets are launching and landing around the clock. Heavy equipment moves constantly. Non-essential personnel simply cannot be up there. Most of the ship's work happens below deck in spaces designed for function, not comfort. Engine rooms, weapons magazines, maintenance bays, electrical switchboards, and the thousands of corridors connecting them have no natural light whatsoever. A nuclear machinist's mate working in the engineering spaces might go an entire week without breathing outdoor air. An aviation ordnanceman assembling weapons in the hangar bay might be on deck for 10 minutes a day during a brief transit between workspaces. For many sailors, the closest thing to natural light is the glow of their phone screen during a 20-minute break. The psychological effects of this are real and documented. The Navy now takes them seriously. The Dwight D. Eisenhower, which completed a grueling 275-day deployment to the Red Sea in 2024, added a civilian therapist and an active duty licensed clinical social worker before departing. Throughout the strike group, 10 chaplains were available. There was even a facility dog on board to help manage stress among the crew. These aren't soft additions, they're operational necessities for a crew that is being asked to sustain combat operations under conditions of extreme isolation. Now let's talk about food, because the logistics of feeding a carrier crew are genuinely staggering. Every single day aboard a nuclear carrier, the culinary team prepares 17,000 individual meals. Not 3 meals for 6,000 people, 4 meals. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midrats, which is midnight rations for the sailors working through the night. The carrier never sleeps, so the galley never closes. It operates 22 hours a day, shutting down only briefly for cleaning. The culinary team consists of between 93 and 114 trained specialists, working in rotating shifts, cooking in multiple galleys spread throughout the ship, each equipped with industrial-scale equipment. Ovens large enough to roast hundreds of portions simultaneously, soup kettles holding 80 gallons, mixers that can handle 60 pounds of dough at a time. Breakfast service begins at 3 in the morning. The culinary specialists aren't just heating things up, they're calculating nutritional requirements by Navy regulation. Enlisted sailors need 2,850 calories per day on average. Women need 2,100. The team tracks fat and sodium content, accommodates food allergies, and respects religious dietary restrictions across a crew that can represent dozens of different backgrounds. The menu operates on a 21-day cycle, so repetition doesn't become a morale problem. And the Navy understands that morale lives partly in the stomach. So there is Taco Tuesday. There is Mongolian Grill Night. If it is your birthday while you are deployed, you get a special meal. Tablecloths, wine glasses, and your choice of prime rib or lobster. That detail right there tells you something important about the culture aboard these ships. Somebody decided that even in the middle of the Arabian Sea, a sailor's birthday matters enough to mark it properly. Every 7 to 10 days, a supply ship pulls alongside in a maneuver called a replenishment at sea, transferring between 400,000 and 1 million pounds of food through connected lines while both ships are underway. When the carrier is operating far from any supply route and fresh food runs out, the culinary team shifts to canned goods, dried ingredients, and frozen stores. The quality of meals drops. Morale notices. There is also a dedicated ship's bakery that produces fresh cookies every single day of deployment. It is a small thing, but that smell, familiar and warm in an environment that is neither, reminds sailors of kitchens and homes and lives waiting for them on the other side of the deployment. Small things matter when the big things are this hard. Life on a carrier is not just challenging because of the living conditions, it is relentless because of the work. The ship's approximately 6,000 personnel divide broadly into 2 groups. Around 2,500 belong to the air wing and are responsible for flying and maintaining the aircraft. The remaining sailors handle ship operations, navigation, engineering, medical, weapon systems, communications, supply, and the hundreds of other functions a self-contained city requires. Watch schedules rotate continuously. Most sailors work 12 to 16-hour shifts. After watch, there is something the Navy calls happy hour, and no, that is not what you think. Every morning from 7:35 to 8:35, all work stops and the entire ship cleans. Every space, every corridor, every piece of equipment. A clean ship is a safe ship, and on a vessel operating nuclear reactors and jet fuel systems and heavy weapons, safety is not optional. Drills are constant. Nuclear emergency drills, fire drills, chemical attack drills, man overboard drills, damage control drills. Sailors sprint to battle stations, pull on protective gear, run through emergency procedures until the muscle memory is automatic. This is not bureaucratic box ticking. Fires aboard ships kill people. Flooding kills people. The drills exist because the emergencies are real and the consequences of unpreparedness are catastrophic. The flight deck itself is arguably the most dangerous workplace on Earth during operations. Jets launch on catapults, delivering the force needed to go from 0 to 170 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. They land at full power with a tail hook designed to catch a wire. Equipment moves in all directions. The noise reaches levels that cause permanent hearing damage without protection. The men and women working up there do it in all weather, in all light conditions, for hours at a time. One distracted moment, one miscommunication, and someone dies. So how do sailors survive the psychological grind of months at sea? The Navy has invested heavily in morale, welfare, and recreation programs because it has learned through hard experience what happens when it doesn't. Modern carriers have multiple gyms, sometimes as many as 9 separate workout spaces spread across the ship. The newest Ford-class carriers feature fully equipped facilities with commercial-grade weights, cardio machines, and boxing areas. Access is available around the clock because with rotating shifts, fitness time has to fit whenever there is a gap. Physical exercise is not a perk. It is one of the primary tools sailors use to manage stress, maintain discipline, and regulate mood during deployments that can stretch beyond 9 months. The Morale, Welfare and Recreation Department organises 5K runs on the flight deck during operational pauses, basketball tournaments, dodgeball competitions and fitness classes. There are movie theatres showing current releases. There are libraries. Some carriers have bowling alleys. The ship's store, a floating combination of convenience store and mini department store, sells everything from toothpaste and running shoes to electronics and Navy-branded clothing. The profits from that store don't go to shareholders. They go directly back into funding these recreational programs. But perhaps the single biggest development in sailor mental health over the past decade has been internet connectivity. Sailors can now video chat with their families, send emails, use social media during off hours. The commanding officer of the Eisenhower during the Red Sea deployment called it the single most important morale tool they had. Staying connected to the people waiting at home makes the isolation survivable in a way it simply wasn't for previous generations of sailors. The standard deployment was once 6 months. That is no longer reliably true. The Navy's fleet has shrunk while global commitments have not. The result is deployments that run 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and beyond. The USS Nimitz completed a 321-day deployment during COVID-19, the longest since the Vietnam War. The Eisenhower spent 275 days at sea in 2024, operating under constant threat from Houthi missile and drone attacks in the Red Sea. By the end of that deployment, every single sailor aboard had earned a combat action ribbon, meaning every one of them had served under hostile fire. The commanding officer said the deployment reset the standard of what a Navy deployment can require. For the sailors aboard, those months translate into missed birthdays and missed anniversaries, into children who take their first steps without you there, into parents who age and sometimes fall ill while you're unreachable. The extensions are particularly brutal when you have been told you are coming home on a specific date, when your family has planned around that date, when you have been counting down the days, and then you receive word that the deployment has been extended by 6 weeks. The emotional weight of that moment is difficult to overstate. And yet, the sailors adapt. They process it, they lean on their shipmates, and they continue doing their jobs because they understand that what they're doing out there matters. That level of professional commitment, under conditions most people will never face, is genuinely extraordinary. After hearing all of this, it is fair to ask why anyone would volunteer for this life. The cramped sleeping quarters, the relentless schedule, the months without sunlight or fresh air, the isolation from everyone they love. The answer, consistently from sailors across every rank and rate, is a version of the same thing. They believe in something bigger than themselves. They are part of the most capable naval force in the history of the world. Their presence in contested waters keeps shipping lanes open and deters aggression. Their carrier strike group can respond to a crisis anywhere on the planet within days. They are the visible, credible expression of American commitment to its allies and to international stability. And beyond the mission, there is the community. The bonds formed in those cramped berthing compartments and on those dangerous flight decks are among the deepest that human beings form. You have slept 20 inches from someone. You have trusted them with your life during a fire drill at 3 a.m. You have eaten birthday lobster with them in the middle of the Red Sea. That creates something that civilians rarely experience and former sailors describe missing for the rest of their lives. The hardship is real, the sacrifice is real, but so is the pride. Aircraft carriers are not just weapons platforms, they are communities. They are floating cities where thousands of people figure out how to sleep, eat, work, grieve, laugh, and stay human under conditions that would break most of us within a week. The sailors who do this for months at a stretch, who come home and then sign up to do it again, are choosing something demanding precisely because it matters. Next time you see an aircraft carrier on the news launching jets over some contested sea, think about what's happening below that flight deck. Think about the sailor trying to sleep in 20 inches of space. Think about the cook who started work at 3 in the morning so that person could eat a hot meal. Think about the engineer who hasn't seen sunlight in 3 weeks but keeps the reactor running with perfect precision. Those are the people keeping those ships and everything they represent in the air. If this opened your eyes to the human side of what our Navy does every single day, hit the like button and subscribe so we can keep bringing you stories like this one. There are a lot more to tell.